Welcome to Impact Duty. I'm your host, Manisha Dadlani Kripalani, bringing you empowering stories of friends and people I admire. Their voices have given me joy and the momentum to share their stories with you. Tarun Mansukhani is a Bollywood director, writer, and creative producer. His experience spans over 2 decades in the industry, which includes directing the iconic Dostana with Priyanka Chopra, Abhishek Bachchan, and John Abraham. His show as creative producer, Dil Bekarar, released on Disney Plus Hotstar recently. Hi, Tarun. How are you?
Hello, how are you? It's nice to be here.
I'm so glad
It's
to
nice
have
to
you
be
on Impact
connected
Duty.
to Zurich at this point in time. It feels good. The world
Yeah,
is nice and small again, and you don't have to travel too far to get to people you know. So it's nice.
exactly. Pretty much so. And I see you're in a t-shirt over there, so I'm presuming the weather is nice and warm.
Well, technically for Bombay, this is our winters. So it comes down to about 20 degrees, and then half the world starts to take their jackets out at 20 degrees. So, but luckily, I don't feel cold because I've studied in North India, so I'm fine, and this is good weather for me.
Excellent. And Tarun, I heard you got yourself a Christmas present in
Yes.
terms of a new addition to the family.
Yes. So I'm not married and I don't have any kids or anything. And I also realized I'm 45. And at one point, I want something that I can call my own.
Right.
So it was always on the bucket list to get a pet. I've never had a pet in my life. And
Really?
never, we've never had a pet growing up. And
Uh-huh.
none of us. Even today, my brother and sister are married with their families and all of that, but they don't have pets.
Right.
It was something that I always wanted, and I'm not very fond of children, but animals I'm very fond of. So I decided I'm going to get myself a pet this year, and I got a
Right.
little black Labrador. He's very sweet. His name is Mojo.
Oh,
He's
excellent.
about 60 days old now, and teething away and running around all over the place. And now I've
Right.
realized parent when you have to wake up at midnight and then you have to wake up at 2 a.m. and then you have to wake up at 4 a.m. and then again at 6 a.m. to play with them.
I
So
can
yeah,
imagine. How cute. And
yeah.
Tarun, as mentioned, I'm rather keen to talk to you about one of my favorite Bollywood movies. I must say, I'm not just saying that because I'm chatting with you today, but Dostana is one of my absolute favorite movies. I actually did watch it just 2 days ago once again for the I don't know how many at time. But before we get into Dostana with Abhishek Bachchan and Priyanka Chopra and John Abraham, I'm going to actually take you back with how your journey began in the industry. Yes, take us way back with the education and how you entered the industry and what got you.
Uh,
Uh,
I was never one for academics. I think that was in school also onwards, like academics just bored me. If I wanted to ever put myself to sleep, it was open a textbook, and within 3 seconds, I would be completely passed out. So I was very lucky though in that entire journey that I always had teachers who saw that and felt that academics is not for everyone. There are different
mhm.
avenues that you can focus on. So I remember my English teacher and my physics teacher in boarding school. They would look at me and be like, you know what, academics is not your thing. You focus on debate and you focus on photography and you focus on acting. And they would make me do all the other extracurricular activities that we used to have in school at that point in time. And
Right.
that's where I started excelling. So I started winning this best actor award every year in the inter-school competitions and all of that. So I just genuinely from then onwards felt I was a more creative person than I was an academic person. And then, of course, I got into college. And in college, I lucked out again with my vice principal, who was then the vice principal, Dr. Indu Shani. She also
Ah,
looked at me and said, look, this is not going to happen with your academics. Start doing plays, start directing them, start doing this, start doing that. So again, over there in college, the inter-college stuff started to happen,
right.
events. And that's where, again, I started excelling. And it was, in fact, my very first inter-college play that I was doing. I was acting in it. And there was a gentleman by the name of Anand Mehendru. He was director for a TV serial called Dekh by Dekh.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So he had just started that show. And he was one of the judges during that event in the
Right.
inter-college event. So when he saw me on stage, he came to me afterwards and he said, look, I'm making a TV serial. Do you want to work with me? Come and act in my show. So I
Right.
said, yeah, it sounds good and all of that. And I went and I acted in one episode. And it was
Right.
actually very new even for its time, because that was the first one that was shot like an international sitcom. It had a stage sort of a space with multiple cameras rolling simultaneously and being edited. How today you would watch Friends, how Friends is shot. It was being
Exactly.
shot back then in 96 in that format. Not even 96, it was
Wow.
92. It was in 92 that
Uh-huh.
it was being shot like that. So for me, it was normal because I'd never seen other than that how it was shot. But for the rest
Right.
of the world, it was a very new concept. And as much as it was great, I didn't thoroughly enjoy it at all because I was accustomed to theater. In theater, there's no
Ah,
take two. You know all your
right.
lines, you know all your movements, you've rehearsed everything multiple times, and now you've got one time to get it right. Right. And suddenly here I was when suddenly an actor would be saying something and they'd just be like, you know what, 1 minute, we'll do one more. And I'd be like, what happened? The audience is going to kill us. What the hell are you doing? And I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that cameras are different from an audience.
Right.
After that finished, I just turned around and said, you know what, I'm not interested in this. It doesn't work for me. I told Anand. And Anand said, okay, do one thing, stay back and assist me instead and see how you feel.
Right.
I was about 16 years old at that point in time. So I said, yeah, okay, let's see how that works out. And I just loved it once I started working. It was a 22-hour job a day, 22 hours a day, a job, and your sleep
Wow.
is forgotten a long time ago. You're on the run all the time, running around the city, getting things done, being told that there's no such thing as no in production. There's no such thing as no in direction. There's nothing that's not possible. So you have to make things happen. And it was a great world suddenly that I had entered into. And I don't think I've ever looked back since then. It's just been fantastic. And I've done various kinds of jobs at that point in time, working from music countdown shows to working in ad agencies themselves, marketing and all of that. With Leo Burnett, I was there for a year. So
Were
various
you?
kind of kept coming up till one day I got a call from this gentleman named Karan Johar, who said that, hey, I'm making my first film. Would you like to come and assist me? And I
Uh-huh.
went and it was a great relationship. So we said, okay, and all right. And I was a film child whatsoever. I had
Right.
not really seen. So I stay in South Bombay, in this area in South Bombay, which is a little more snobbish. So we never really ended up watching Hindi films as
Oh,
such.
really? I'm a
We
South
always ended up
Bombay
watching.
girl and I grew up on Bollywood movies.
I have no idea which part of South Bombay, because then
Actually,
we are telling you that you do not belong to us, because
no, no. To
we
be
are
very
that
honest, I did most of
far.
my growing up in Ghana, so that probably
All right,
explains.
therefore,
Yeah.
therefore, therefore. So automatically, like when he called me up, I had no idea that his father was a producer. I had no idea that they made films even and all of that.
Right.
The Shah Rukh Khan was a familiar name because
Right.
of Dilwale, but he wasn't the mega star in my head, right?
Right.
So when I went and met Karan, and I was like, how much you going to pay me and all of that. So he laughed, like, you don't seem very enamored by the fact that you're going to be working on such a big film. But even he was a South Bombay boy, so he kind of understood the fact that, we are not really enamored by this
Right.
world, which
Exactly.
was great for him because it was nice for him to have assistants who he was on the same wavelength with in the first place.
Right.
And two is one going to be sitting onto a set getting enamored by the actors. That
Good one.
played out really well for him also and for me also in that scenario, that look, we're here for our job. We were a new generation that arrived into it. We didn't
Right.
have the surgery and all that, touching each other's feet for no rhyme or reason and all of that. So we
Right.
came into a world with a very professional side of it altogether. And
Right.
everyone in that film, everyone in that generation was suddenly a newer generation person coming in. So it
Hmm.
was all a fun gang that had arrived to make a film. And that's
Right.
exactly how Kuchota got made. And then I ended up spending 20 years with Karan in that production house. So
Excellent. Yes, and you've worked alongside some of the biggest movies that have come out of that production house. Any key learnings you want to tell us
a
about?
million. I think there are a million key learnings on every film. But I
Right.
think the biggest takeaway I've had with Karan is that how to treat people, whether it's from the spot boy to the star. The kind of
Mm,
treatment that you give out to people is how you get your film made. It's not the technicalities. You writing your script on your own, and eventually
right.
it's your vision, right? But everyone else is actually the one making the vision happen. You're
Right.
not the one doing anything. You're the one literally telling an actor how to behave and what to say,
Hmm.
the line that's been in your head. But until a DOP and a cameraman doesn't sit there and film it like that, it makes nothing. Until a
Right.
person who doesn't get the right costume, it becomes nothing. And those people can't do anything unless they have great assistants working with them. And those people won't be happy unless they have the spot boys feeding them. So you have this whole world over there that you need to make. You need to literally be thankful to for making your
Mm-hmm.
films. So how to treat those people is pretty much what I think the biggest lesson I've learned from Karan is that
Excellent.
always be thankful to all those singular people that come together to make your vision come true.
Exactly. Wow. And Tarun, any of the characters, not the actors, but the characters that were significant for you or that was special because of how they turned out or
I think definitely for me it was K3G,
mm,
Mr. Bachchan's character. Mr. Bachchan
oh,
and Shah Rukh's and Ritik's in that sense, because more so the relationship. My
right,
father passed away when I was really young.
right.
So I was 7 at that time. So I didn't understand ever a father-son relationship. But
Mm-hmm.
with Karan, he kind of became that godfather in my life in that sense. And there was Mr. Yash Johar, his father,
Right.
right, at that point in time. So they
Aha.
treated me like, and they always gave me the love of a child, like a father-son relationship, which was not existent before. So when I saw it happening on screen, it was the most
Aha.
relatable to me because I just had it with Mr. Yash Johar, and then there was a Mr. Bachchan who was enacting the same.
How lovely.
So it was a wonderful, for me, that character was great.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think that would
Every
be your
Indian
answer,
mother,
so I'm glad.
I think every Indian mother is Jaya Bachchan, who will hold that thali when their children arrive, no matter what. They have the sixth sense to know what's happening with their kids. So yes, I have my Jaya Bachchan sitting at home. My
Oh,
mother
how
is
sweet.
Jaya Bachchan and Kiran Kher from Dostana mixed together.
Oh, that's one of my favorite characters. So that allows me then to bring us to Dostana, which is so iconic, in my opinion, and somewhat path-breaking because of the characters that were scripted for that movie. I mean, I believe it was ahead of its time. I know we're looking at, what, 14 years ago, 12 years?
13.
How many?
13.
13. Okay, so 13 years ago, to have scripted out characters that were showcasing being gay in a different light from what had ever been showcased in Bollywood, for in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love the movie, but when you mentioned Kiran Kher, I must tell you, I so loved the Punjabi mother in her. She really was quite iconic. So, Tarun, I'm going to take you to Dostana and let you tell us how that came about, how you thought it up, and how you created such a fantastic movie.
Thank you. You're very kind with all your words. I think you should record this and keep it to myself every time I'm down and out. But yeah, Dostana started off just basically me wondering as my first film, what do I want to make? What
Right,
do I want to talk about? As a first-time filmmaker, where's my voice? Uh,
right.
and I think the most two important factors for me was one, that because I'd been in boarding school, friendship was one of the most valuable things to me.
Right.
I've been extremely wealthy when it comes to friendships. So
Lovely.
that was definitely something I wanted to mention and talk about in my film. But other than that, we've had, of course, million films about friendship. So how does it stand out? What is your
Hmm.
voice that stand out? And there were a couple of things I felt we never spoke about. One is sexuality, and the other is politics. And now, to be very honest, I am quite clueless when it comes to politics. I'm a lot more well-read now than I was back then.
Right.
Uh, I picked up on sexuality
Hmm.
as choice of film to make, and that's how the
Aha.
kind of element came into it. But most people, I think, even don't realize that right now the film is basically the first half kind of deals with that sexuality bit,
Aha.
but overall it still moves into the theme of friendship. So in that first part, now if I'm going to touch upon a topic about sexuality, it's either your own acceptance or it's your
Right.
family's acceptance. And
Mm.
I think I'd been from my world of experiences, I think there were enough people who had known who were gay openly, but
Hmm.
just didn't tell their parents about it. So
Mm.
the place where they
Mm-mm.
felt most entrapped with all the people that I spoke to before writing it was they feel most entrapped at home.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's the truth, because we only feel judged by the people we love.
Right.
an outsider gives me an opinion about something which I really don't care about, it doesn't hurt me whatsoever. It hurts me when a loved one says it, right? So that's invariably due to the love they felt trapped.
Right.
And that's only element that I wanted to bring out is a mother's acceptance. And that's what gave birth to the what I would call the cliched Punjabi mother who will have issues with all the, like, oh my God, where is my daughter-in-law? What kind of a
Yeah.
world are we living in? Who will I
Uh-huh.
fight with?
All right. Yeah.
That's how Kiran Kher's character came about. But of course,
Mm.
Abhishek, John, and Priyanka's characters came from the fact that my closest friends are like that. They are all
Mm-hmm.
mad. We are polar opposites of each other. And yet we get along and have this camaraderie, which just goes over decades and decades of friendship, where even
Right.
at times, if we've not spoken for years, nothing changes. Literally nothing changes. So that's the kind of
Wonderful.
friendship that I want to bring
Wonderful. I must tell you, I like Bowman Irani as well.
you.
Yeah. And moving on to the world of web series, I believe you've just produced one that's just come out in November. I'll come to that shortly. But how are web series different from directing a film?
Well, first things first, I think is the people should understand that it is 4 films put together, because
Mm.
one film is about 120 minutes, right? So when it comes down to of web series, it's close to between 300 to 500 minutes, because it's 10 episodes of 30 minutes to 45 minutes per episode.
Right.
So that could range from 300 minutes to 450 minutes. And if it's 450 minutes, you're talking 3 films put together at the same time, right? With that many more characters, because you have 45 minutes per episode to satisfy, there are that many more characters in an entire web series, which means that many more stories to tell, that many more threads to hold together, right? And in that scenario, invariably what ends up happening is you still have the same number of days to make it.
Mm.
You make it
Oh,
in about 60 to 80 days. You make a web series in 60 to 80 days.
wow.
You have to think a lot more and faster on the set when you're making a web show. You don't have time over there to execute. You're just there to execute. So you're really pushing those boundaries over there of creativity and time limits. Whereas with a film, there's a certain amount of luxury. It's a certain amount of passion. I have 120 minutes and okay, I'm going to shoot this one scene today and that's it. I don't want to stress my actors out too much. It's a tough
Mm-hmm.
scene and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. When it comes to a web show, it could be an emotional scene and I still need to shoot 2 other scenes after this. So I don't care
Mm-hmm.
whether you're exhausted, go change and come back out fast. So that's the first difference that I felt between a web series world and a film world.
Right.
That's the
And
primary difference. But the great part about the web series is that you get to say all the different stories in one if you want. There could
mm,
be your entire show could be an action series, for example, but there is
right.
a separate track altogether for some other sundry character, which is a very comedic route. So
Right.
there is a certain element of that. So you could be shooting one comedy scene one day and then finishing it and moving into an action scene, finishing that, moving into a emotional scene, and then finishing
Wow.
your day. So as a director, you have to be very focused at that point in time. As a creative producer, which I was on my previous show, is where you have to be trying to support everything possible, because there is X amount of money to that you have available to you, and that many things to be done, that much more
Right.
work to be done. So you have to be creative in figuring it out. Okay, how can we take the same amount of money, put 3 different scenes into the same set, and not make it look boring?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
got another form of creativity going on when it comes down to money altogether.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a completely different world, and yet it's all the same eventually, because eventually it's all characters and eventually it's the same set and the same kind of people, same unit that's working. So all eventually what happens in a day is pretty much the same. It just
Right.
is a little more steroids.
Right. And taking us back to another film that you directed, which was Drive. Tell us a little bit more about how that came about and anything significant that you would like to share from your
So
experience with Drive.
Drive, our biggest thing was, okay, what is the kind of action film we don't have? What is the kind of world that
Mm,
we're not seeing? right? And then
Right.
it was obviously the Fast and Furious world.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that first you come into, and of course then you sit down and you realize that, okay, Fast and Furious has the budgets. How can we make it in a smaller budget? Because eventually a Matrix started off at a very low budget too, right? Everyone had a vision at some point and said, let's start it from there. So it's not necessary that you need the budget to make that kind of a vision come true.
Right.
So that's when it all started, by saying, okay, let's bring in Indian street racing and make it about the Indian cars, and then bring in the big cars and the climax and all of that.
Mm.
Uh, as the film began, because we were completely novice at it, and as much as I was a car buff, I wasn't
Aha.
a film car buff. There's a
Aha.
big difference between the two. When you realize that, when you get onto set and you realize that all your cars in India are front wheel drive, versus all the American cars are rear wheel drive. So they
Oh.
can drift, and therefore we can't drift. And then you're sitting there, holy shit, did I just take on an entire car film with a car that doesn't drift? Now what do we do? So, okay, I have to do that in CG. And then you're trying to understand the computer graphic world and what are the movements that a car does, because it's just, for them, it's natural. For us, it's not. So all
Right.
of those learnings that happen during drive were, I think, one of the biggest educations I'll ever get. I don't think the film turned out the way I would have wanted it to.
Aha.
I think it could, on a script level, it could have been a lot better.
Aha.
But definitely, now that I have the experience of this, having done this, I would, if I was to make ever a part two, I would knock it out of the park.
Oh, yay. And brings me to the next question, which is if there was a movie or a series, Bollywood, Hollywood, Tollywood, Nollywood, whichever would you want to take, that you think you would have wanted to do, what would it have been?
Let's see. I think, honestly, I'm a little egoistic like that, and I don't think I'll ever
Oh,
look at anyone else's work and say, "Oh, I wish it was mine."
aha.
Uh, Secretly, I might have felt like that about a film like Crash or
Mm. Yes.
Pursuit of Happiness. But at the end of the day, I'd still be too egoistic to say no. Would I have made that film? I would have made it
Right.
differently. That's
Right.
it. I would have made that kind of a story with
Hmm.
that kind of meaning and something that touches you the way it does. But would it be that film? No, I don't think there's any such film out there that I would feel that about.
Great. Any, what's your inspiration, or how do you get inspired, or are there any inspirators um,
I
that
think my
have?
biggest inspiration has always been my mom.
Oh, so
My mom has
sweet.
been my inspiration, primarily because, as I said, my dad passed away when I was really young. I was 7, my brother was 8, and my sister was 11 at that point in time. And there she was, suddenly single with 3 kids and her mother to look after. And she just picked up life. She wasn't a working lady at that time, and when my dad passed away, but then she took on a job and she
Right.
made things happen. I can't imagine the number of times that she must have put herself to sleep while crying, wondering where's
Oh,
the next meal going to come from, right? Never did she give up. And at no point did she ever feel, and she's made pretty much a big empire for us to stand on. My sister is a dentist, my brother's a MBA, a CMBA, and I'm a film director. She must have done something right. So in that scenario, when
bravo.
if she didn't give up, who the hell are we? We are going to be having a ton of issues coming our way. And yeah, you just wake up every morning and you just keep fighting. That's fine and that's okay. And things will be bad days and there'll be good days. And that's it. So she's my biggest inspiration for sure.
Oh, wonderful. And so now bringing you to Dil Bekarar, which, like I said, you've just creatively produced and released in November, if I'm not mistaken. It's on my
Yeah.
wish list. Um, and it's an Anuja Chauhan book, if I'm not mistaken. It's adapted from an Anuja Chauhan book. I've read the Pricey Talker Girls, which is what I think Dil Bekarar
Yeah.
is based on. So tell us a little bit more about how this actually came about and how you decided to take this on as a project.
So for one, of course, yes, as you said, the book that it's been adapted from was very descriptive and wonderfully written about a world in the 80s of Delhi.
Aha.
I'd never lived that. I'd never been in that world. I'd been a Bombay child all my life. So it was completely different as a world altogether,
Mm-hmm.
because that much more politics was available for you in Delhi than it was in Mumbai. The houses were that much larger, the properties were
Mm,
that much different, and all of that. Here we've all grown up in an apartment world in
exactly.
Bombay. So when this show started, and we had a great director, Habib Faisal, on it.
Aha.
So he's done several films also as well. And he gets this world fantastically because he's been a part of this world. He has
Oh.
been a part of Doordarshan as a trainee. He's done all those things also himself. So
Aha.
when he arrived, so or rather I arrived after him, in fact, and there was a great, and because we've known each other from the past, from the film world, it was a great amalgamation of my thoughts towards how do we save the money and make it look the same and yet look different, versus with him coming up with all these little nuances and all of that. Getting these beautiful actors to come and work with us uh, was just, it's such a pleasure to watch a good actor do their job. So
Right.
having that, we did that eventually. And then slowly, I think of course, there is the constant disagreements about something. And then there's the laughter about something. And then working with a Mr. Raj Babbar, who was a complete, he had come
Oh,
back
yes.
to working again. So it was great having him and him realizing, okay, a lot of the world has changed from where we've come from. So it was a
Right.
great where everything kind of just fell together and came together at that point in time. So it's just
Excellent.
something that I loved being a part of, because I for a moment first thought, what am I going to be bringing to this table as creative producer, right?
Aha.
At the end of the day, if somebody came and told me as a director how to spend my money, I would be getting pissed off. So now I'm on the other side and telling another director that, listen, why don't you try this? But of course, it was a great amalgamation. It turned out to be great fun, and we became great friends also, Habib and me. After that, so it's been actually a great learning for me also to understand that at times with the web world or any other world, you have to let your ego back a little. Your ego should be
Right.
about your characters, should be about story, not about whether how you're being told to spend your money. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I
Mm-hmm.
understood it from being that person who was telling somebody else. So
Right.
it's great learning for me to understand that eventually, as I said, what Karan had originally taught me, be thankful to everybody who's coming to that table because they're making your vision come true.
Oh, nice.
So
Uh-huh.
that it kind of just because it's a new world. That time there were no creative producers. Today there are, and therefore in that sense, it was great for me to come into it to say, hey, new job. I'm going to try it out. Let's see how it goes. And how many people am I going to piss off by telling them, hey man, you can't do this? But let's see. And it went out really well.
Oh, I'm glad. Like I said, I'm rather keen to watch it. I hope to use my holiday time to watch it, to binge watch it if possible, because I have read the book. I've read several of Anuja's books and quite love them. So yeah, rather keen to see that. And before I say goodbye to you, Tarun, what's next on the cards for you, or what do you wish to see materialize in 2022?
I have a show starting in end of February. It's for Balaji Productions and
Aha.
Juggernaut, two companies that are coming together. It's an action show called Test Case.
Hmm.
It's season two. Season one had Nimrit in it. Season two is about to start, and we're like in the scripting stages right now. So we're hoping to
Right.
start shoot by end of Feb, and that's going to
Excellent.
happen. So it's a new world again for me with action and just all the kind of bond space and all of that. It's a different world for me, so it's good. I'm like doing stuff that is going to challenge me rather than doing the same stuff. And post that, once I finish doing that, I have a film. It's a
Aha.
comedy film again. So it's nice to get back to that genre again after a little while. And hopefully we'll come up with another film which will make you laugh and have as many memories as Dostana did.
Tarun, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. And I'm wishing you all the very best for the near future. I can't wait, like I said, first to watch Dil Bekarar and to see whatever else comes out in terms of content from your side. Here's wishing you all the best, Tarun.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to chatting with you again soon.
Yes. Take care.
Take care.